Peace to the family. Hotep.
Hotep.
It's been a long time since I've been in front of the family like this. But we like to set it off as we do with Soul Vibers Nation Reality Speaks. We say how the Africans feel when y'all say spirit is strong, definitely strong. Can we try that over here? So how the Africans feel?
Strong,
Oh, no, I know some people just came off from work. You know what I mean? Some people tired. Some people like, man, I ain't even feel like coming. Some people just ate some of this good food and nice and tired. But let's do it as loud as we possibly can, family. How the Africans feel?
strong,
All right, cool. Thanks for coming out here today. I ain't gonna take long because I know we ran a little bit over, and we appreciate Dr. Asar Winkler. Give him a big round of applause, Doc, for having us here today. And we decided to do this event with a real Pan-African. Please stand up because, look, it'll be 30 years for myself with Soul Vibers Nation Reality Speaks. This year, October, will be 30 years. We've been bringing speakers to town and trying to enlighten our community and the community. So I said like about a year or so ago that I had retired and I wasn't doing lectures anymore. And talking to Dr. Asar a lot, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, meeting a lot of people. I'm just joking. I said I retired, but, you know, it was something like that, though. Doc said, you know, man, look, we got to get these lectures back. Every time I see people in the street, come on, man, we need some information. We need some knowledge, you know. And if my mom was still around, she made sure that the lectures went on because this was like church for her and for all of the community. So she made sure that we kept it going strong. So, you know, I just been seeing stuff all throughout the internet. Pan-Africanism is on its last leg, and this, that, you know what I mean? Marcus Garvey was a this thing and a crook, and you know what I mean? And I'm saying, I was like, oh, heck no. Dr. Asar talked to me again and some other people, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, every time I get out, they try to bring me back in the game, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, we had to do something because now we got to uplift the spirit of Pan-Africanism because it's this philosophy. I wouldn't be standing here today. My shop opened 25 years ago, and it opened on August the 17th, which is Marcus Messiah Garvey birthday, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey birthday. So that's why we're here today, fam. I see some beautiful people in the community. Brother Bill Goodness in the building. Give him a big round of applause. Baba Losi is in the building. Give him a big round of applause, family. The Tendea family is in the building. Give him a big round of applause. You know, and that's just to name a few. I'm just looking around if I miss some. Sometimes I miss people be like, you didn't say me. I'm sorry if I did. I'm looking around right quick. But we want to get this program started. I want to bring up the brother today. Oh, and let me thank my panelists, you know what I mean, for coming out. I'm sure Dr. I wanted to say Davon Love is and I gotta say this. When I first started off here, I always tell this story. I said, you know what I mean, when I first used to see the brother, they were up at Towson. And I'm like, man, look at these young Negroes out here running around trying to do this stuff, trying to run for office and trying to do all of this stuff. I mean, not that I had anything against them, but I was like, oh, they into all that political stuff and all that stuff. You know what I mean? They cool and everything. But he started coming to the barbershop and, you know, just started explaining some things to me. And actually, this brother started being a great asset to start telling me about different things that help Soul Vibers Nation and Reality Speaks, and started to see what this brother was actually doing. Entrepreneurship, family. You know, we got a little restaurant going on here at the same time, you know what I mean? But it's all good. We multitask. But this brother has done some great things in the community and continues to do great things in the community. You know, he's one of the reasons why you know, we've lasted so long, even at Soul Vibers Nation Reality Speaks, you know what I mean, giving us, you know, we recently got something called a bond bill that a lot of people don't even know about from the state of Maryland. And it was like from this brother that I learned about this bond bill that helped out Soul Vibers Nation Reality Speaks and Conscious Heads Barbershop in general. So, you know, I started to learn quickly. This brother, I was saying, look at these young Negroes, like, oh, this brother's serious. Like, this brother's about his business, you know what I mean? So, you know, we appreciate this brother. Dr. Wright, I've seen her on Dr. Mayat show, and she was representing on that. It's the first time I met her here in person. And then we have Dr. Mayat, who's in the building. Give a big round of applause. Who's been around, cut her daddy's hair all up in the barbershop, and she used to come in as a young lady back then, you know. yeah 17 years old when I met this young lady. So we appreciate the work she's been doing in the community. And my good brother here, from the UNIA. This is the first time I met this brother, but brother Asar talks about this brother all the time. And I said, I've never met him before, haven't been in the same spaces, but it's an honor and a privilege to be amongst your presence today, brother. Yes, sir. So, President, all right, big round of applause again. I see my man, Brother Cliff, in the back from long. Brother Cliff, been around for a long time. Give Brother Cliff a big round of applause. And let me just bring up good brother Dr. Asar Winkle. Give a big round of applause, family.
Money Nine Guvu, meaning peace and power, family. How's everybody doing? All right. I'm multitasking, sweating, all types of things, moving chairs. But it's a beautiful day today, family. Give yourselves a round of applause for showing up. Y'all looking good, and we want you to continue to look good as we go throughout this process today, and we expect we will. So I'm Dr. Dennis Asar Winkler. Let me give a plug for my wife back in the back, Sister Camille, my family, my son, my neighbor's son. So they're in the back. We close the kitchen at 8. So if y'all want something before then, holler at them. So again, thanks for coming out. Me and Brother Jabari, as he said, do a lot of talking. Me and Brother Jabari has grown to talk probably about every other day until he fell in love with pickleball. But today's topic of panel, this is something we plan to do, and we continue to plan to do, because we need these type of coming together, these gatherings. Because to some degree, people believe that Pan-Africanism doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. It just doesn't exist so much on YouTube and so many other things, and maybe in the best way. But nonetheless, so again, will the real Pan-Africans please stand up? So today, family, I want to start off by saying we open tonight with the words of Dr. John Henry Clarke, who reminded us that Pan-Africanism is not an abstraction. It is a matter of life and death for our people. With that charge, let us ground this dialogue. Oh, y'all want me to go back? All right. So, and this is a discussion, family. So, this is not about being overly formal, but, we do have some structure, a little structure. But what we want to have today is a conversation. I said that earlier. I talked to Dr. Matt, because one thing me and Brother Jabari decided we wanted to keep the panel kind of small. Because I've been on panels where it's 20 people. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's what it felt like. And you only get 2 minutes to talk, and you never get to even talk to the person next to you. So what we want, and what we like to have, is a dialogue between the panelists, and at some point, dialogue with the audience as well. Okay? So with that, there's some rules of engagement. Opening guiding question. Oh, this is the agenda. We're going to talk about the rules of engagement. We're going to have some open guiding questions and some core dialogue questions. Then we're going to have community Q&A, and then we're going to have closing reflections. So the rules of engagement: respect. We can disagree sharply, but we honor the Africanity in one another. Clarity: speak plainly, let theory illuminate, not obscure. Brevity and depth: share with impact, but leave room for others. We don't expect that y'all need those questions. I mean, that type of rule, but nonetheless. Community first. This is not about ego, but proving who has the most. Y'all got that. I already know who I have on this panel. But anyway, we want this to be a dialectical process. All right. So, opening guiding question. In this moment, when Pan-Africanism is being twisted, attacked, and even declared dead by some, how do you define what it truly means to be Pan-Africanist today? Let me say that again. Pan-Africanist today. And what personal or organizational lineage connects you to this work in a way that proves its ongoing relevance? So you all have mics, and y'all can go ahead and jump in. All have 5 minutes.
Sisters first. Want me to go first? Oh, that's an excellent question. Peace and blessings again. My name is Brother Everett. I am president of the division of Marcus Garvey's UNIA ACL. I'm also Minister of Information for the entire UNIA globally. One of the things that Marcus Garvey said, because he traveled at an early age, is that he found out that wherever he went, Black people were in the same condition. We were on the bottom. He saw that white people fought each other, Chinese fought each other, but when it came to us, they would unite to keep us down. And he noticed that we didn't know the power that was within us. And so to me, what Pan-African means is, you know, it's not me being Black here, it's me being Black all over. All over the world, we must come together. One of the main things that hurts us sometimes is that we have a condition of being tribal, a condition of being segregated, hating on each other. It starts from Bloods, Crips, it goes to Democrat, Republican. But in the UNIA, we always say one God, one aim, one destiny. You know, so for me, the main important thing to be a Pan-African is to love Black people all over the world. You know, we always take care of our family. In the UNIA, we say my race is my family. I get beat up by my wife a lot about that. You know, when I say my race, she understands now that my immediate family is my responsibility, but my cousins are still my responsibility, and you are still my responsibility. And so I believe the main thing that we have to start teaching is that, yes, I understand there's a lot of people saying I'm foundational Black America. I guess I am. I'm African American, I'm here. But what you know what the white man calls all of us, the N-word. He doesn't hold any punches. To him, we're the N-word. And to him, we're always the same. It doesn't care if you're in Egypt. It doesn't care if, Kemet, it doesn't care if you're in London. It doesn't care if you're in Jamaica. It doesn't care if you're in Ghana. It doesn't care if you're in Baltimore City. So for me, the main aspect of coming together and being a Pan-African is you have to love Black people as a race. We can't be separated anymore. That's how they get us. That's how they beat us down. They destroy our leaders and they take from us. So I think the main thing to let people know that we are still here. Pan-African still here. It exists. It exists in the UNIA and exists in a lot of other organizations in Baltimore City. I often say, if you don't want to join the UNIA, great. You can still come to our study groups, what have you. But there's PLM. There's other groups you can join that say race first. And that's the main thing we say, race first. And I'm going to end on this. Me and I know Dr. I was in a book class, and Dr. Claude Anderson, we did Powernomics, right? Yes, yeah, we did. And one of the things Dr. Claude Anderson says is race is like a race on the track meet. I say this all the time. He said, if Black people on the track meet, we'll be last. It's a race for economic power, resources, education, money, land, farms, and we have to understand that we must come together, support each other, and that to me is the main heart of Pan-Africanism. Thank you.
Ashe. To me, Dr. Asar, testing. All right, there we go. Being a Pan-Africanist is understanding that we are Africans first. Above all things, we are Africans first. It seems like in 2025, and they kind of beefed it up because it's always been there, that there is a concerted effort to make us forget that we are African people. Yeah. Our ancestors were clear. If you go back and you study the history of us in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, you know, post-emancipation, post-1863, 1865, we were naming communities after Africa, churches, Africa, newspapers after Africa, right? And so now we're identifying with everything other than being African. I'm an African American. And I'm not saying this. Look, I am a proud, I know we say Black American or foundational Black American or African American. I'm proud of the lineage that we have here. Don't get it twisted. But I'm clear that I'm sitting here before you as an African woman first.
Sure.
I'm clear that my ancestors came from Africa. I'm clear. And I'm clear that they were caught up in the Ma'afa. I'm clear on that. But you have people like Dan Calloway who's telling people we always been in America. Our lineage started here. We've always been here. We're the Native Americans. No, we don't have nothing to do with Africa. And you got people, and and Brother Tariq Nasheed, I'm going to call his name. And this brother and I, we talk. I've been featured in his documentaries. We talk. But even with the foundational Black American movement, you got a push to separate us from Africa. And that's where I draw the line. And he knows that. And you see, I'm seeing this is being live streamed. He knows that because I've had conversations with him about that. We are African people first. So to be a Pan-Africanist is to understand that we are African first, to understand that we all have a shared identity, we have a shared history, and we have a shared struggle. Also, understanding the need to unify for the purpose of, what you say, Doc, eradicating oppression. That's what it means to be a Pan-Africanist. And I'm going to pass the mic to my sister.
Ashe.
So thank you for having me first and foremost. Thank you.
We please have you.
Everyone on here. Yes. So Dr. Mott said most of it. So what did she leave? I'm going to say what she left. Let's get a working definition. Unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation everywhere we are. And that basic bare bones concept and definition can go all the way back, can be found documented in the first Pan-African Conference, right? 1900. They had a simple goal and objective. And we need to have a simple goal and objective, right? So whenever we come together, and I teach this a lot to brothers and sisters on the continent, and I'll tell you a little bit about that because you asked about organizations, and I work for an organization called I Love Black People, aside from, teaching for the City University of New York. But one of the things I stress to them is that us coming together at a house party or an event, or even something that elevates the African aesthetic, just coming out to that is not enough. Pan-Africanism is when we come together precisely for the purpose of dealing with our condition, all hands on deck. That's what it is. And it always produces something. You know why? Because if it doesn't, then it failed to be Pan-Africanist. Okay, so there are measurable gains. I hear a lot of that in the public realm. Oh, well, what are the benefits? We don't benefit from it. Other people always benefit. We're the Pan-Africanists. And speaking of African people in America, we've been the Pan-Africanists. No, that's true. We have. But it's a dialectical relationship. It's been reciprocated. I was on the radio with you. I had to remind people that when Du Bois got tired of this, trying to get these folks here to enforce the Reconstruction Amendments and the Constitution itself, he left and went to Ghana.
Straight
okay.
up.
And he had a place for him given to him by who? Nkrumah. But when Nkrumah was a young man, he came here and there was a place for him. Okay. And we politically educated him. He got some of his chops right here in institutions in the United States, but were Black institutions first and foremost, Lincoln, before he could go to a UPenn or any other institution. Okay. So he fortified himself within the context of our culture. Okay. So bottom line, yes, it still exists. It has measurable gains. It's very simple when we come together precisely because we come together to do a lot of things that don't have nothing to do with anything. But when we come together precisely for the purpose of dealing with our condition, then that is the definition of Pan-Africanism. Okay, Pan-Africanism being put in practice to deal with our condition, to eradicate oppression and exploitation everywhere we are. Okay, so I think, let's see, personal organizations. So one of the organizations that I actually work for a Black tech company called I Love Black People. And I I do this kind of conversation, teaching about Pan-Africanism from individual proponents to organization to community expressions to national expression to our goal, which is continental unity on the continent of Africa. And yes, part of that is understanding that Africa is primary for us. Okay, Africa is primary. It is the source of our power. Garvey knew that. He understood that. There was one little caveat. When we were on the air yesterday, one of the things that I wanted to say, but we didn't have time to say, was simply that when we talk about being African, we forget that the whole reason that we survived this and all that comes with it is because we are African. Okay, everything. We came with everything we need to survive the last 400 years and really beyond that. We had cultural infrastructure. We had a cultural insulation, all right? Extended family formation. We know about ethnic conflict, but when we got on those plantations, we essentially understood that to create an organization, which is called a family, even with people who are not your blood, would protect us. COVID lets you know we still in the house with mama, auntie, cousins. Yes, the extended family. We came with that. That's how we survived it. And then, of course, we are culturally and mentally durable. We have a suicide taboo. Other than Igbo landing it off the coast of Ghana. Listen, no, we don't do that. So we came with everything. The reason we are here is because we are African. That's right. That is what it is. Okay, I'm sorry.
Ashe.
Good.
Beautiful.
So peace, family.
Blessings.
Thank you for the invitation. Grateful to be on this panel. I'm going to focus. My area of work is in the policy and political arena. And when I think about the importance of applying the notion of Pan-Africanism, my organization, Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, our focus is on political advocacy, specifically on behalf of Black people. And there are very few independent Black political formations that exist in our society. When we think about what does Pan-Africanism mean in the context of our political struggle, we got to understand what politics is. Politics is warfare without the bloodshed. Warfare is politics that's spilled out of the back room. So we have to understand that politics is about contesting for power and resources for our community. I think too often politics is understood and taught to us in the American mainstream as we got to be incorporated right into the American institutions in order to engage and advance our interests in the political landscape. But we have to understand it in many ways as our enemies understand it as a site for contestation of power. And so what that means in the context of Pan-Africanism, and we understand the station that we are collectively in as a people, it is, if we're to be an independent people, we have to have control over the life-preserving institutions that are necessary for us to have a good quality of life. Transportation, food distribution, waste disposal, technology, education, military. These are all fields of human endeavor that if we are to be a free people, we have to control those life-preserving institutions. The challenge that we face is that as a people, we are reliant on white folks and people outside of our community for those services that we need as a community to survive. So if we take our freedom seriously, then what is primary is advocating for us to get the resources and investment we need so that we can practice that freedom and self-determination. And I think one of the unfortunate things about the moment that we're in is that unfortunately, I think for many people, the plantation is inevitable, I think, in the consciousness of our people. That there's a way that we proceed in the world in a way that assumes white domination is the norm, right? And unfortunately, not enough of our people think that we can beat white folks in this game of political warfare. So a part of it is we need to organize ourselves understanding that we are engaged in political warfare. We are contesting for resources for our community, and we have to do so in a way that it facilitates our freedom and self-determination. What our enemies do is they have international networks, right? Those international networks are important for them in the local places that they are in. So take something as simple as like food distribution. We don't control the things that we eat, right? There are people outside of our community that control the things that we eat. So if we're serious about being self-sufficient, then we're not going to be able to solve that problem just with looking at what we have here, right? It's going to require us to do business with folks across the globe, our people, right, across the globe, and set up enterprises and set up political formations that can represent us internationally, right? That's a part of what we're seeing when you look at, for instance, Zionism, right? And you look at the way in which Zionists have organized a system globally, right? They have a global system of enterprise, of military, of political organization, such that anywhere that they exist in the world, right, they have that blanket of protection, right? I'll end on this. One of the stories that I often tell, there's a movie that I watch once a year, If Beale Street Could Talk. And it's a movie that for me is hard to watch sometimes, you know, given where it goes. And the thought that I have every time I watch it is that it's a shame that we don't have that there is not an independent African nation with nuclear capability. And that comes from reading Cheikh Anta Diop's the Black Africa, the basis of a cultural and federated state, where he talks about the fact that during the Cold War, there was an intentional effort to make sure that South Africa, which had nuclear capabilities, was controlled by white folks in the apartheid system, and that they killed Patrice Lumumba because much of the raw material to produce nuclear weaponry was in the Congo. So there was a geopolitical perspective and activity to ensure that we didn't have the ability to threaten the kind of force that other folks are able to threaten. So when I think about If Beale Street Can Talk, one of the things I think about is, what would it be like if the Congo had nuclear capability such that they could say to the United States, you're going to let our brothers go or we're going to go to war, right? That's not a capability that we have as a people, but that's what we need to be aspiring to. And so that's the importance of Pan-Africanism, to give us the clarity of understanding the importance of wielding power as a people, just as other people that wield power have it, so that we're not operating based off of the benevolence of people outside of our community.
I want to come back for those who weren't clear, because I know that everybody here has a personal organizational lineage. And I mean, you know, the trolls were out, and they say that only one person here has a personal, or rather organizational lineage to Pan-Africanism, to be, so why the rest speaking to Pan-Africanism? So if those who omitted their lineage or their organizational that they're affiliated with or what have you, please do so.
Yes. So family, I was so passionate about defining what Pan-Africanism is that I forgot to discuss my organization. So I co-founded an institute called Conscious Ingenuity Institute. And so we have 4 programs that we offer. One is called Conscious Ingenuity, where we utilize science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics to build character, confidence, and capabilities. And that is an African-centered organization. In fact, we were just with the Tendea family and the Pan-African Liberation Movement. We were down there at the Urban Reads bookstore for a rally. And most of the members of my organizations are undergraduate students from Morgan State University, whom I've been grooming for the past 2 to 3 years. In fact, I'm getting ready to take them to Ghana from December the 9th through December the 20th. So I'm taking them through a whole process of re-Africanization. So Conscious Ingenuity is actually an African-centered STEM teaching organization. Ashe? And then also we have a program called the UACI STEM Camp, and that was co-founded with, it's in partnership with the Hoover Academy, Baba Amin Ojuwoke, and Mama Nkoyo. And we came together because I said, look, Conscious Ingenuity, it's really a Baltimore thing, right? We're in different schools in Baltimore City. In fact, we're in 11 schools in Baltimore City. But my goal was to reach Black children no matter where they were in the world. And so the UACI STEM Camp is it's a virtual STEM camp, an African-centered virtual STEM camp where we're teaching children cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, coding. And so they learn these concepts over the summer. Because like you said, you know, we're talking about power. Well, in 2025, it ain't no Black power without STEAM power, Ashe. And so that's the UACI STEM camp. But then I also have the Asafo and the Goji training camps. The Asafo training camp focuses on manhood development in young boys between the ages of 12 and 14. The Agoji is the sister camp that focuses on the development of womanhood in young girls between the ages of 12 to 14. And those two camps are offered in partnership with PLM. And so I wanted to share that with you all. Thank you.
You want to plug Meltrack?
Just in terms of my own genealogy, so I did policy debate in high school and in college. I came into it during an intellectual and academic innovation in the activity of policy debate that actually started out of the Pan-African Studies Department at University of Louisville, where they challenged the norms and procedures of traditional debate within the context of competitive policy debate. So they recruited Black debaters in an overwhelmingly white activity, challenging the research approaches and the pedagogical approaches as white supremacists. That culminated in the team of Liz Jones and Tanya Green, two Black women that got to quarterfinals of the national championship tournaments on the college level. The person that trained us, so Eddie Warner, who was the person that established it, and a person who trained me named Daryl Birch, who was a student of Jan Carew. Jan Carew, traveled with Malcolm X when he was in London. And so Daryl Birch actually moved from Louisville to Baltimore to train myself and my college debate partner. Him and I actually won the national championship in college debate in 2008. And our argument centered around the Black aesthetic, right? So using Larry Neal and Mary Baraka, Gail Addison, and Sonia Sanchez was a core part of the intellectual work they would use to win nationals and intellectually beat white folks in their own game. And so just in terms of the genealogy in terms of Pan-Africanism, that's essentially what incubated me intellectually.
I say. All right. That's just getting started, family. So on the confusion of misrepresentation and decline narratives, some say Pan-Africanism is dead. Others point to the actions of the prominent self-proclaimed representatives as proof of its decline. What do you see as the biggest distortions of Pan-Africanism today, and what examples, past or present, show that Pan-Africanism is not just theory, but effective practice?
I'm up. Well, I always look at the UNIA, that's my organization. So when people say Pan-African is dead, and we're speaking about certain leaders, I always have to question that because of the work that we're doing. When we talk about economics, let's start with the farms that we have, a farm in Liberia, Jamaica, Curacao, about to put a farm in Ghana, to the grocery store that we have in New York, trying to bring a Black-owned grocery store to Baltimore. Hopefully we can get that done this year. To the restaurants, and then putting a restaurant and a grocery store in Ghana. So when they say Pan-African is dead, I question that off of the economic value of the work that we're doing. And I see other people doing that as well, not just us. So sometimes we look at these people that are in the forefront, that we claim that are leaders in the Pan-African struggle, but they're not really leaders, so to speak. I always look at the people that are on the ground doing the work. Dr. Mott mentioned a lot of things that they were doing. It's very important that we understand the goal, Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. And so whenever we build, we have to build collectively and take every aspect of what we're doing and place it in Africa. And so I see a lot of the work we're doing from the school that we have in Liberia now. I'm actually sponsoring 2 kids, so that hurts the pocket, but it's a duty that we have to do. And I see a lot of other members in the UNIA with that same goal. One of the things that Marcus Garvey said when it comes to my organization is that if you have African descent, you're all members. It's just a matter if you pay your dues or not. So he automatically knew that what he's doing and the work that we're doing is not just for our organization, it's for our people. And the Pan-African part is very critical because a lot of, like the panel said, it all has to go back to Africa. It all goes back to our lineage and where we're from. Marcus Garvey knew that. And so what we have to understand is that we got to stop letting certain propaganda get us sidetracked. One of the lessons in the UNIA is called propaganda, creating our own propaganda. That's what made Marcus Garvey so powerful. He had the Garvey Voice, the Negro World, our magazine now is the Garvey Voice. are propaganda. So we have to start looking at things like that to change the narrative about how we think about each other, how we go about doing the things that we need to do as far as business for our community, etc. Once we come to the realization that we're one, there's nobody that can stop us. But we have to really change the lifestyle to make that happen. And it is a lifestyle change. You have to change your mentality and thinking. It starts with our education system. You know, we learn about maybe Benjamin Banneker. We don't learn about the ancestors in Africa. But when you go to a Jewish school, you know what they learn about their ancestors. They become men at 14 with the bar mitzvahs. They study their culture. But in our school system, we don't study our culture. And so we have to change that narrative first. Once we change that narrative, we'll be okay. But it starts with the propaganda that they're putting at us. Pan-African is strong. I was at the Garvey Festival this year. It was beautiful. The African Liberation Day, beautiful. Black people loving each other all over. So I know it's not dead, and I see it all over. I see it in Atlanta, African Liberation Day. I see it all over. So I know that Pan-African isn't dead, but people that want to say have an agenda. And we have to look at that and say, what's their agenda and who's behind that agenda? I don't really like to talk about who we want to say is in the forefront of who the leaders are. I look at the leaders that are doing the work today.
I see.
He don't want to say it. I'm gonna talk about it. So, Dr. Umar Johnson, right? So you say, what do you see as the biggest distortions of Pan-Africanism today? I would vehemently say Dr. Umar Johnson. He promoted himself as the Prince of Pan-Africanism, and literally there were young people when I started making statements about Dr. Umar Johnson. I said he's not a Pan-Africanist. I said if you truly understood Pan-Africanism, you wouldn't even categorize him as a Pan-Africanist. And they said, Dr. Ma'at, you crazy. They said to me, and I quote, Dr. Umar Johnson is the living embodiment of Pan-Africanism. That's what young people have been convinced because of what? Propaganda. He was a hell of a promoter. He was the Prince of Pan-Africanism. And I will say this, because I did hear at one point he was a part of the UNIA. I did hear that he was a member of that organization. And so he was able to parrot a lot of Pan-African talking points, which people, oh, he must be a Pan-Africanist, peace and power, my Africans. If you in the Jamaica, my Africans in the Caribbean, my Africans. He did all of that, right? He repped the red, black, and green. He did all of that stuff. And so people started thinking, man, maybe he is a Pan-African. But when you think about it, he was a Pan-African. He had Pan-African talking points. Where was the practice?
Sure.
And how can you be a Pan-African if you don't operate with an African consciousness? A part of operating with African consciousness is your character. So you're walking around being this, it's your character. So how can you say, I'm a Pan-African and you out here, you're on the internet, you're dogging black women out, black women are coming forward from different cities saying you're trying to sleep with them and you're harassing them. And then people saying you stole their money. How is that? That's not Pan-African, right? That's the opposite of Pan-African. Because you said the definition of Pan-African is what? Unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. So how can you be exploiting people and call yourself a Pan-African? It makes no sense. So he's one of the distortions. Tariq Nasheed, I don't want to feel like I'm banging on this brother. I don't. But I think I sent it to you, Dr. Asar. Remember when Umar Johnson's, I'm gonna call it a school project because it was never a school. It was abandoned buildings. Okay. It was never a school that opened, that had students and staff. It's literally abandoned buildings sitting in Delaware. Okay. So let's stop calling it a school because it wasn't a school. It was a school project. Okay. Even if you want to call it that, I would call it a school scam. Yeah, maybe it's a property. But then when it failed, I do know that brother Tariq Nasheed, he went live and he was like, see, y'all, see, I told y'all Pan-Africanism is a scam. Look at what happened with Dr. Umar Johnson. And that's what he said, and so he's been very vocal in that, pushing this whole idea that Pan-Africanism is dead. And they're pushing a lot of misinformation. A lot of people are claiming, like FBA online, they're pushing a lot of misinformation about Pan-Africanism. They're saying things like, if you're a Pan-Africanist, then why don't you go back to Africa, Dr. Ma'at? I can be a Pan-African no matter where you are in the world. Pan-Africanism is it's an ideology, right? That's what it is. It's a set of ideas, it's ideology, and it's also a theory, it's also a practice. So you can be a Pan-African and be anywhere in the world. So it's a lot of misinformation surrounding Pan-Africanism that is pushed by people like Dr. Umar Johnson, is pushed by people like Brother Tariq Nasheed, and I always say his minions, and I said this publicly, his minions, they push that stuff on the internet. But we had to do a better job, at edifying the everyday person so they won't get caught up when they're looking at the internet, because that's where everybody is. Everybody's on TikTok, they're on IG, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube. So we had to do a better job at pushing what Pan-Africanism really is, to make the lay people understand what it is. All right. I think that's all.
So Doc, you got me in trouble.
Oh, I did?
Dr. Wright and Dr. Ma'at.
I got you.
Because I was on that clip when Dr. Wright was defining Pan-Africanism, and and then she kind of said, and this doesn't really add up with Umar's behavior.
Right.
I was just there as an innocent bystander. and then another Pan-African group in Baltimore, brother, came and said, y'all just jealous. And the last time he checked, all Umar had the ears of the youth, and he has all the youth saying Black Queens forever. Everybody finish it. Nobody's never. So that was the qualifying factor. I didn't come back for my brother. I showed him some grace, but that was the qualifying factor for him being a Pan-Africanist and us being haters. And I was just seeking status. Okay, but go ahead.
Wow. Okay, well,
don't get me in trouble no more.
I'm gonna try not to. So, yes, and yes, all those names. I don't even need to say them. This is the thing. We have to learn to qualify. Okay. So there is another organization, a Pan-African organization, that I come up and get my political education in. That's the All African People Revolutionary Party. That is based on Nkrumahism and Touréism. That's how we say it now. But the idea that Umar Johnson would be someone who is a modern day proponent of Pan-Africanism, we can easily qualify that. Okay. And Pan-Africanism is what Dr. Ma'at said, an ideology. An ideology is both theory and practice, right? And so the practice works out whether or not there are contradictions. Okay. So if there are contradictions, you will understand that when you look at it in practice. Let's qualify the practice, right? So if there's no practice to couple with the theory, then it is not your ideology. It is not something you truly believe in, right? Anything you truly believe in, you follow through on. Right. And so, that's all I can say for that. It hurts me presently to hear all the things that Dr. Umar and even Tariq Nasheed say about Pan-Africanism, okay? Because it just undermines it. And we have such a long history and tradition of it in our community and globally. You understand? Brothers and sisters on the continent, they are right on point with us. Trust me, they are. And I mentioned I love Black people. I teach a Pan-African history and ideological training course every Saturday morning without fail, rain, shine, hail, or high water. I teach that class, and I teach it virtually, but I'm teaching to brothers and sisters on the continent, young people. They part of that 1.5 1.5 billion on the continent who are under 30. And so 2022 is the last time I counted. We had 22,000 young African people who came through this ideological training course, Pan-African history and ideological training course. And I love Black people. Okay. So, Umar Johnson and Tariq Nasheed, I mean, they are human beings, but they say nothing to the history of Pan-Africanism and the reality. And I can't stress enough, qualify, and then qualify again. And yes, there are contradictions that folks have. So this is how we work those things out when we qualify it, right? Let's measure it. Let's weigh and measure it.
So the panel said most of what I would say. I'll just say this briefly. What happens sometimes is that we are prone to confuse spectacle with substance. And because when we think about the nature of the society that we're inundated with information, narratives, and there's a very entertainment bent to the kind of mass media environment that we're in today. And in many contexts, what makes good entertainment does not necessarily equal what makes actually good progress for our people. Those two things aren't the same thing. And there's a way that I think in that confusion, because I think there are ways in which people think, I got to make this exciting for people so people feel brought in. What I would say is you just measure a person or institution, organization by the results of what they produce, right? That's the simplest way to do it. And when you do it that way, then you look at Umar Johnson and it's simple, right? What is the product, right? Now, again, having conversations, because he's a smart brother, right? He knows stuff, right? So if you're talking about having conversations to enlighten people, that's cool. But when we're talking about like what it means to be a Pan-Africanist, part of the question is materially, what are you delivering to Black people, right? In real material terms, like what is it that you're delivering to our community on a consistent basis where someone can walk and say, okay, I see this thing in my community that I know was the result of the work. So I think for me, that makes the conversation a lot simpler. I think part of what has happened in this mass media environment, and I think a part of the negative impact of Umar Johnson and folks like him, is that it makes people drawn to that as the thing they prioritize about what it means to do the work. You know what I'm saying? And so what it does is then it delegitimizes the everyday work that people are doing. There are people in this room, right, who've been doing work over many years, people who contributed to my development, right? People, my goddaughter went to Insaroma, then to Community Academic Scholars, reads better than most people her age. You know what I'm saying? These are the real impacts of Pan-Africanism that's every day, but that's not sexy like being in front of a camera saying I'm the Prince of Pan-Africanism. You know what I'm saying? So we just have to change our metric as to what it is we're saying is Pan-Africanism. And if we do that, then it's easier than to see the work that people are doing every day.
I'm sitting over here. I'm scratching my head. I'm thinking about what you said. So he measured Umar being a Pan-African. He measured Umar Johnson being a Pan-Africanist based on young people chanting a slogan. Right. Not based on galvanizing young people to build their communities or advance their communities in some way. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
You just said we hate us.
Okay. All right.
And we've been hating for years.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
And
I'm
gassed up on the internet.
Let me veggie back, not piggyback off of what Dr. Moss said.
I'm over here scratching my head like, did he really say that?
My one of our members, our Sergeant at Arms, has a radio show, music show called Substance Over Hype.
Come on.
Substance Over Hype.
Okay.
And that made me think of that because, sometimes we say certain things and it's right. And then we get that gift of gab with it and make you feel good. But then we forget about the substance that we need. Yes, Dr. Umar was a member of the UNIA, and it didn't work out. That's all I can say. But what I will say is that, sometimes we have people, they speak very well, like preachers. They get us really pumped up. I feel good, man. Snow bunnies, this or that. But then after that, we got to see some kind of material. We got to see some kind of work being done. I hope by the grace of the Creator that this man opens this school, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I want the brother to succeed, but you know, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I don't want to see what he was doing was a great concept. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to, and from the UNIA especially, dealing with the businesses that we had, a lot of people talk about the boats, the Marcus Garvey, you know, and I'm a business owner. I can only tell you how many times I went to people for some money and the business didn't work out. But talk about the businesses that I did have succeed. Right. So, you know, we have to be very mindful when we go into the community as leaders to make sure we have substance and then make sure we have value when we're taking that money. And that's something that's very important that I just wanted to make sure that I said.
And real quick on that hater point, because I do think that that's something that some might say or think. See, like the work that I do, because of the power of my work comes from the strong base in the community. So I'm positioned in a way where you can drag me on the internet, it won't impact nothing I'm doing. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's the way that we have to see it. It's like, it's not hating, right? I want, but as the brother said, as brother Everett said, I want the brother to be successful, right. But we also have to be able to make important distinctions as to what is actually moving the work forward and what is not. And understand that I don't need what Umar has, right? We've been able to do work here without any of that.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. My struggle, and I'm going to switch up, is that I think in our community that we have not learned yet to understand the difference between frauds and flaws.
Come on, facts. Mm-hmm.
And people say people turn this way because we don't understand personality.
Come on.
And what I will argue is that if he opens the school, it just gives him more power to do what he's doing. Because personality doesn't change like that.
No, it doesn't.
So that's why we have to really deal with mental health. And I do have empathy for my brother, but I know the more power he gets, the more he will hurt, harm people. And that's not, and I'm not going to stick quiet. I'm not going to make it a living out of it. And to say I made a living out of it, you ignoring all the work that I've done. Absolutely. So let's go to the next one, y'all.
Absolutely.
So from Garvey to Nkrumah, today's FBA, ADOS debates, how do we hold fast to our lineage while still building solidarity across the diaspora? Are the philosophies too divergent, or can we find common ground for unification?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, when I first found out about FBA, it was actually through the ADOS movement. Tariq Nasheed was actually started beefing. What's the sister, Yvette Cornell?
Yvette Cornell, yeah.
And so Antonio Tone or something, right?
Antonio, yeah.
Right. So what he actually said was, you know what, forget ADOS. I'm a form my thing. And then he was like FBA. And so I thought it was about reparations. And what they were talking about was, you know, we want to make sure that people over here get our reparations. And we don't want other people from other places to get it and hurt the numbers or what have you. And so that's where I first heard about it. And so now I hear about it, it seems like it's a whole bunch of separation and things of that nature. Again, my race is my family. So if I get reparations, if the brother from Jamaica gets it, I'm not really worried about it. I just want mine. And to the lineage thing about solidarity, I'm sorry about that. I think that anything that causes division hurts the overall consciousness, hurts the overall goal of our people. We can say wherever we're from and we can rock our lineage or what have you, but when it becomes separation and hatred, that's when I have a problem. I start hearing people say, you know, man, they don't like us over in Africa anyway. It's like, wow. I mean, I see a bunch of Africans over here. Brother Everett, you want something to eat? You got to come to Africa. I'm going to take care of you. I got you all set up. So I'm not seeing the hatred and things of that nature. And so I'm trying to figure out where that came from and why do they keep pushing that agenda? It seems like it's an agenda to just keep pushing the separation of our people. But I think the main thing is we have to come together and have meetings like this, panel discussions like this, push it across social media, and let everybody know that we're one. It doesn't matter. If we keep talking about separation, we're never going to grow. We're just not going to grow. It's not going to happen. The main goal, and my main goal, I hope whenever I speak, whenever I leave, is to let everybody know that we have to come together globally. This is a global thing. This is a global systematic thing. And the best way to have a common goal is to say, you know, I understand where you're coming from and all that, brother, but you know what? They're going through the same thing over here.
That's right.
They're going through the same thing over there.
That's right.
And so I would make it real brief is I think the main philosophy that we have to start pushing, and it starts with our children. We was talking about what Dr. Umar having having the youth under him. We have to start pushing that agenda, and education is the main key to let people know that we are all one. We are all Africans. That's the main thing you keep hearing across this panel. We are all one. We are all Africans. We cannot be separated. This is a serious time right now. A serious time in this country, a serious time in Africa, a serious time all over. Look at Baltimore City now, what we're going through and what they're trying to put us through in our education system, in the streets, Penn North, people ODing and things of that nature. I mean, we got to get ourselves together, and we got to get ourselves together globally as well. It's just not a one-part thing. It's a global thing. And I don't want to hold anybody up because I know the panel has something to say, but the main thing I would say, we have to push our propaganda to let everybody know we are one. This flag, the flag, I don't know where you got it, Doc, but the flag, the red, black, and green, it means something. Yeah. That's for all of us to come under one banner.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? That's for all of us to come under one banner. It wasn't just Marcus Garvey that created this flag. It was ancestors. 30,000 over in New York City for a whole month long coming up with that flag. It's our ancestors. And so we have to remember that the main goal was to be one. And how can we keep being separated? That's like me saying the Black Gorilla family, the Bloods and the Crips, y'all can keep fighting and I'm gonna be okay with that. No, we a family. And so I'll rest on that. I appreciate you. We gotta have that flag. Wear your colors, let them know who you are.
Ashe. I want to say this. I do see some elders in the building. I don't think we define what ADOS is for some people who may not be familiar with it. So ADOS is American Descendant of Slaves. And I know that there's some folks, maybe everybody knows what it means, but I'm an educator, so I like to define acronyms before I use them. But it's American Descendants of Slaves, and FBA is Foundational Black Americans. So I do want to add, what I want to add to this is I'm clear that we've been over here for 400 plus years, right? So we have become an ethnicity. I'm clear on that. But I also understand that we've become an ethnicity no different than over in Africa on the continent. You got Bamaliki, you got Ashanti, you got Zulu. They have a lot of ethnicities, right? But in the words of Professor James Small, he says we are an ethnicity under the umbrella of African ethnicities. And I think that that's where these, FBA and ADOS missed the mark. They want to cut us off from Africa, so FBA, Foundational Black American. Africa is nowhere in the acronym, right? It's Foundational Black American. Even ADOS is American Descendant of Slavery. So they've literally severed us from our African roots. And that is the issue that I have with them. Now, if they were pushing it and saying, okay, we all are African, but our ethnicity is this, and even kept Africa somewhere in our title, I would probably be fine with that, because I do understand that we have become an ethnicity over here with the culture, with the history, with the language that we speak, with our own ideology, our own music genres that we've created over here, in America. So I'm clear on that. But I don't agree with the severing ties from Africa. But it says right here, how do we hold fast to our lineage while still building solidarity across the diaspora? I don't think there's a conflict there. I can be a Black American or a foundational Black American or ADOS or African American and still love my brothers and sisters in the Caribbean and on the continent, in the UK, in the Europe. There's no conflict there. And see, when they talk about or when they discuss Pan-Africanism on the internet, it's almost like they want you to choose. You know, I gotta choose if either or. Either I'm going to be an African American or I'm gonna be a Pan African. And I'm like, wait a minute. One is an ethnicity, and the other one is an ideology. I can be an African American and be a Pan Africanist. I can be I can be an African American and be a Black nationalist, right? None of those things is no contradict. Yeah, none of those things are contradictory. And so it says, how do we hold fast to our lineage? Just understanding who we are, remembering who we are, right? That we do have a lineage here, that we are an ethnicity here, but it's under the umbrella of African ethnicity. So it all goes back to us being African first. Oh, I'm gonna hand you the mic.
Yes, 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 and yes, right? So while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, you know, what I want to say, and I'm listening to my sister doctor here. So it's real simple, right? We are not brown white people. There's a bigger difference between us, and you know, so because I've had to say this to some people that I know and hold dear to myself. I'm not a brown white person. I'm not just simply a brown version of them. I'm African. And what makes me African first and foremost are my values. Hello, what I value. Okay. And my values that I take with me everywhere I go. It dictates what I do and how I do it all the time. Okay. So when we talk about family, we know like it dictates a great deal of that, who we consider family, right? I was talking about the extended family formation. That's very African. Okay. That's who we are. So, you know, let me just say this condition, FBA and ADOS. One of the biggest problems with some of these titles or new identities that have emerged is this. We're talking about ADOS. American descendants of slaves. Slaves, what are those? That's a condition. That's not a type of person. When you come out your mother's womb, they don't say is it a boy, girl, or a slave. It is a condition. It's a condition that no group of people have not experienced, and usually at the hands of the people closest to them, in proximity to them, right? Sometimes their own people. So it's a condition. It is not a type of person. So I think it's deeply problematic for anybody to identify themselves with a condition that they can overcome and defeat. And I think that's what we have done here, right? And I always say that. I always make it a point to say, it probably gets real cliche to people who know me. It's like, listen, we defeated the institution of slavery in this place. We defeated it. It was never supposed to end. Don't you get it? That's why these guys are carrying on now. Because they done messed up. They lost this free labor 400 years. They lost it. They never going to get it back. Okay. So we've got to understand that we are not simply brown versions of white people. We don't have the same values. I have a good friend who asked me because she identifies as ADOS, but you know, can we be American? Can we be? Listen, sis. In the contemporary sense and in the historical sense, do you really want to be American? Do you know what these people did? Do you want to steal, kill, decimate for this? Okay. No, I don't want to be that kind of American. I have no desire. Do you understand? I affirm my African ancestry, and I affirm the fact that we are the first human beings. To be African means to be human. There are no human beings that live outside of a cultural construct. The first humans on this earth were in Africa. Therefore, to be human means to be African first and foremost. So when we talk about human history and all of that, 200 to 300,000 years, that's us. That's us. Nobody but us. So I don't understand the identification with a condition. Okay. I don't understand people functioning or thinking they can function without core values that dictate what they do. Okay. So I don't have to explain my physiological appearance or anything like that. I'm African in values and principles all day, every day. Okay. And that's right. And it dictates how I live my life in this place. Okay. So last, but so our philosophies too divergent? Let me say this. There's a lot of stuff out there. I teach students here physically who are, some are at Medgar Evers College, right? So I taught there several years and then I left, and then on the side, I'm there again. And most of my students, it is a paradise for a Pan-Africanist, because you have brothers and sisters, young students from the continent, a large number. You have brothers and sisters from the Caribbean. You have brothers and sisters from the United States. But what I say is we got Africans from the Caribbean. We got Africans from Central and South America. We got Africans from the continent. We have Africans here in the United States. However, unfortunately, the propaganda is strong. My students thought they were telling me something one day. I teach African history, world history. They thought they were telling me something one day, like they're going to take me aside and put me on. Now, I'm from New York. Let me just so you understand, I'm from New York. So we used to everybody. You understand? And I understand the mentality. They said, Professor, well, do you know like that like white people, we were told white people sort of like they prefer us? And this is a young sister from the Caribbean. And I said, yeah, okay, that's interesting. You think they prefer you? And let me give you the other part of the conversation. And when they're with an African person from America, they say, oh, well, the only thing black people and white people got in common is that they both hate immigrants. I said, so how much do you really think they prefer you? But regardless, you are here in our communities. You didn't integrate nothing. You're here under our cover. Okay. And you know it, because when things go down, you come to us. Okay. No matter what you think you look like or what you think we look like, you come to us. So the reality, that's nonsense. Don't buy into the propaganda. That wasn't the first time. Trump has consistently tried to pit groups against each other, right? Oh, immigrants are taking black people's jobs. This black job thing wasn't a new thing this time around. He started that last time. Whole thing on CNN, black jobs are being taken by the immigrants, this, that, and other. And I let them see that. Do you really think they prefer you? They are pitting you against us right now, okay? And the reality is that they don't prefer any of us. They don't know any distinction between us when they see us, okay? They do not, and they could care less. So the reality is this: we have to understand that when we are in the same spaces together, we got to move together, period. We have to move together because, and yes, we need to explain that to our brothers and sisters from other places, because I never go any place in this world and not respect my brothers and sisters who are there before me. Doesn't even occur to me. I pay homage to them, period. It's no problem. I had a sister, I lived in Senegal. I had a sister from here who said to me, well, you don't think, I said, I'm African. She said, well, you don't think you're African like the folks here in Senegal? I said, I'm an African. I'm a specific kind of African. I have ethnicity. I'm a specific kind of African. Like there's other African ethnicities right here. And so she went on to say, well, I'm Native American and I'm European and I'm African. I got some African in me too. She looked like she could be straight from Senegal. There was no difference. And I said, well, listen, this is that. She said, but they don't think you're African. I said, let me tell you something. If one or no person in Senegal thinks I'm an African, does not change the fact that I'm an African person. I'm an African person when I'm in Brooklyn, and I'm an African person right now here on the continent. That has nothing to, them accepting it or not has nothing to do with the factual reality that I am an African person. And the most important thing that is African about me that survived was my righteous African mind. I'm back, but I have not lost my mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm back on the continent. That was not supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to come back and understand who we are. They were supposed to erase us in that way. And so whatever you think about our physical appearance, how we look or we don't look, how much African lineage or whatever genealogy we have or don't have, we have survived. Our righteous African minds, for some of us, has survived. And that's what we're doing here. We're waging a war over the minds of our people. We have freed the body. We won. We should all clap. We won the war over our bodies. Now we're waging struggle over our people's minds. That's what this is.
Sure.
So I'll just say that for FBA and ADOS and the distinctions debates, they're in that context. W.E.B. Du Bois in Black Reconstruction, in the chapter Back Towards Slavery, talked about the fact that after the Civil War, Du Bois and many observed that it could be possible for there to be multiracial democracy in the United States. White labor sided with white capital and proceeded then to the Black codes that receded to the retreat of the Union troops from the South. And what that demonstrated was that America does not have the capacity or potential to deliver justice for Black people. Part of the challenge that we're faced with is that too many of us identify with America and this ideal of American democracy. And the truth is that we have to get to a place where we understand that our freedom is not bound up in the success or viability of America as a social and political economic order. That the extent to which we're going to get justice is the extent to which we organize on the basis of our own collective power and strength as a people to navigate this society. As Derek Bell said, one of the founding theoreticians of critical race theory, that America is permanently racist. It is a settler colony. It never had any intention on producing justice for Black people. But unfortunately, our people identify with America. And in some ways, that identification comes with, there's some comfort, right? That many of us that try to integrate into mainstream American culture, you get benefits, you get some trinkets, right? If you are submit to the authority, the notion, the concept of America. And so I think when we diverge with FBA and ADOS, and for me, why it's so important, the distinction is that I'm clear that our freedom is now bound up in what we call the settler colony United States. And we're dealing with the people for whom they identify with America so much. Now, that is a mythology that I would say the majority of our people are faced with. And part of the battle for the minds of our community is to disabuse our folks of this belief in America as a concept and as a social order. Now, does that mean that we can't do work with folks that identify with that? I don't think so. Right. One good example, actually, because one of the things I was actually doing a live stream earlier with an influencer online. And one of the things I say to them is, I don't see these ADOS or FBA people when I'm out doing work. I don't see them. Now, with one exception, though, and I gotta give credit. One of the things we worked on was a bill that would have established a commission to study how to implement a reparations policy in Maryland. And I did see some ADOS folks with some ADOS shirts come down and testify on the bill and were a part of it. I was like, that's cool, right? And it worked out that, they were there, we were there, we could do work together. So even though I'm clear of the limitations of their perspective and worldview, right, on things that we agree on that we can work on together, we can do that. But that doesn't mean that we relinquish the reality and the truth that if we're interested in freedom, we got to understand that Pan-Africanism is the worldview and perspective that's going to get us to freedom.
I just want to say this, Doc, before we go to the next question. I want to drive home because you're right. A lot of Black Americans, I just want to be American. I just want to be American. Remember, Brother Everett, in the book club, we read the book by Dr. Jacqueline Badalore, who wrote the book Birth of a White Nation. And this was a woman, she's an attorney, white lady, right? Well, Irish, she's Irish. And she, yeah, exactly white. But she wrote this book called Birth of a White Nation. And in the book, she argued that to be American means to be white. So when you hear Black folks say stuff like, I'm just American. No, if you really understood the history here, you would understand to be American simply means to be white, and you will never be viewed and treated as being white. So you would never be accepted as a true American, And so if you all haven't got the book, I just wanted to plug that, Birth of a White Nation by Dr. Jacqueline Badalore. And it's a short, thin book. It's only like 107 pages, short, thin book. So make sure that you get that.
Our blessings. So I have a follow-up question just before we go to our final question. And the follow-up question is, I hear a lot from these different segments, FBA, ADOS. They often say, well, especially FBA, they say that Africans Africans in America are the only practitioners of Pan-Africanism, and those other Africans around the diaspora and the continent only tether on our culture, give or take. What do you think about that? So they're, in essence, they're saying we are the only ones who believe this ideology, and everyone else is selling us out.
I would say that's not true.
Not true at all.
Not true at all.
Yeah. The Sahel Alliance. The Sahel Alliance with Burkina Faso, Mali,
there you
and
go.
all of them.
There you go.
So you got the Sahel Alliance. You have a lot of those leaders getting together, especially Ibrahim Touré. I mean,
That's
that brother,
bingo.
That brother is organizing people. He's making alliances, across the continent of Africa. So those people don't know. It's called the AEOS, the AES. That's what it's called. But they're doing a lot of work, a lot of Pan-African work on the continent. So that's not true, Doc.
Yeah, and there's historical examples, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's frustrating sometimes. And again, and I'm saying this with all due respect, that a lot of the people that I see on the internet repping FBA and ADOS, it's astounding the lack of knowledge about what African people are doing. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of it is being reliant on social media and television as the basis for knowing what Black people are doing. But we all know that there's so much Black folks are doing that's not going to be on TV, and that's not popular. It's going to be shared frequently. So you heard about the Alliance of Sahel States, right, in Burkina Faso, which is, one of the most important things that, in terms of what's happening in Africa. Whether you look at in South America and South Africa, economic freedom fighters, right, a Pan-African nationalist organization as a major political party in South Africa. And one of the things they were able to accomplish was pulling the ANC further to the left on the issue of land expropriation without compensation, because white folks own 80% of the land in South Africa. Right. They passed some legislation. It could have been stronger, but they passed some legislation that allow for the government to seize land of white folks and redistribute it to Black people. So, I mean, there's so many things that are happening, in terms of people of Africa around the continent. Even if you look at you look at the African Union, right? Which, and even if you look at like South America, right? That, the tremendous things happening in South America, Venezuela, right? You had Hugo Chavez, who unfortunately passed away back in 2013, who saw himself as in fact, when Hurricane Katrina happened, Venezuela sent oil, right? And sent supplies and support to Black folks in Katrina, right? Okay. Hugo Chavez saw himself as an ally to Pan-Africanism. You know what I'm saying? So that's something when you look just around the world, even if you look at something as simple as like the Ayatollah in Iran, right? For whom, when they took hostages in 1979, they let the Black people and the women go. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So when you think about like Pan-Africanism and the work that folks have been doing for a couple of centuries now, in terms of collaboration with Black folks here and around the world, for someone to say that they're selling us out, and they just don't know. Yeah, they just don't know.
Doc, I'd also say that it would be crazy for me to say that we have divisions in Africa. So how can I be a division in Liberia, 4 new divisions in South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone? These are UNIA divisions. There's no Americans over there. So they're rocking our flag. They're rocking the Pan-African UNIA flag. So to just in our organization alone, I can say that's definitely not true.
I just wanted to say, I want to get a little bit more of the question. If you could repeat some of it, but I just want to start out saying that Africa is the seat of our power, and Africa is the seat of our liberation. So the concept that Garvey is talking about is that a solid continent of Africa will reverberate throughout the diaspora, right? And it's diasporas, right? Because we're not the only African diaspora, right? So we got them all over the world. So, that is our first priority and focus, the primacy of Africa. Second, yes, there are many expressions on the continent and throughout the African world. Yes, the Alliance of the Sahel States. Okay. But I brought the year in Zimbabwe, doing work for I Love Black People and opening up another location there in Zimbabwe, in Harare. And the young people, I was very impressed. Okay. I was very impressed because of the simple fact that the consciousness is high. See, I know a lot of people watch a lot of mess on the internet, but then if you notice, there's a steady stream of brothers and sisters on the continent who are critiquing our situation here. Okay. And they are very African, I would say, centered. They are able to understand our ideation here and how it connects to them. I'm impressed. I'm not. So there's a lot of gibberish and garbage out there, but then there are a whole bunch of young brothers and sisters on the continent who have their eyes on us and the global African community, and they have the right position, right political position. They understand the context and the cultural context here in the United States and abroad. They understand that. So the reality is that, you know, the expressions are not just big and bright and everybody's looking at them. The expressions are like small and quiet very often, you know. That is, they have Pan-Africanist thinking. Okay. And they are trying to connect, and they are producing their little videos, critiquing, long ones, critiquing everything going on with us from the continent back to here. Okay. And they're very on point. So I think that's Pan-Africanism in nature. But the point is that on the continent, you have too many examples. Okay. So the Sahel Alliance, Burkina Faso, listen, Zimbabwe is standing strong, still in solidarity. But let's look at the Caribbean. Listen, today, Cuba is still the biggest expression of Pan-Africanism from a nation comes from Cuba. Cuba, if Dr. Clark, he's right. We don't got many friends. We probably have no friends. But if we have one, we have Cuba. That's right. Because Cuba is involved in numerous liberation struggles. Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, South Africa. Okay, Cuba and African Odyssey. You can find it on YouTube. Great film. It chronicles all of Cuba's role. And no, Castro was not an African, but he understood that his people were primarily African, okay, and that their mother nation or their mother continent was Africa and not Spain. All right. And so they go to the mat for us in a way that nobody else has done in the world. So if we have a friend, and in a Pan-African context, for sure, absolutely. So you could say they were simply internationalists, but they know we are African. So yes, and he knew his people were African. And I've met people in Cuba who actually fought in wars on the continent of Africa. So that's one of the most glaring across the continent examples of Pan-Africanism.
Ashe, thank you very much for that. And I'll be remiss if I didn't say that I paid my dues to President Everett Winchester as one who have an organization, who has study groups and organization here. All brother President Everett has said to me when I asked him what service that he needed of me, he said, keep doing what you're doing. So final question before we turn it over to the audience. Looking ahead, what does Pan-Africanism need most right now in vision, discipline, or practice to remain a living force for our people in 2025 and beyond?
You want to take it, brother?
Oh yeah, I can go first. I'm sorry.
And if y'all can wrap it up like maybe 2 minutes, and we'll turn it over. Thank you.
Looking ahead, what does Pan-Africanism need first? I would say it needs people to be more vocal, speaking about Pan-Africanism, how important it is to be one, how important it is. The main thing I get out about being a Pan-African is you gotta love Black people. I love Black people. It's tough sometimes to love Black people, but I love them. You know, I die for my people. And we have to come with that kind of heart. We have to start teaching that to our peoples, teaching that to the youth, teaching it and building that systematically back again. That we need to love each other. We need to build economically. That's very important economics for our people, to support each other. We talk all the time about economics. Dr. Mike, you got on me on Facebook about I did business with somebody, and the UNIA did business with somebody, and they took thousands of dollars from us, and they're not answering our calls. So I blasted them on social media. Hopefully they would get it and respond. But the main thing that I got what Dr. Mott was saying is, pull the owner up. If you go to a Black-owned business store and it's not, they're messing up, pull the owner up. Say, hey, I need you to do better. We gotta really start making this culture. Pan-Africanism is a culture. And when we talked about Dr. Umar, one of the things that we talk about in the UNIA is being in the UNIA, you have to have character.
That's right.
You have to have character to be a Pan-Africanism. It's just not, oh, I love that. It's a lot. It's a culture. It's
African
bingo.
personality.
That's right. So we have to start teaching that again, building back our roots again. And it's not going to be easy, but it starts with each of us in this room, going back and delivering that message. And, that's the most important thing I can get out of it. If we can keep pushing our propaganda, keep pushing that message to love each other, love Black people, to fight for each other, and go through thick and thin to be one, I think we'll be okay.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Ashe. I think that we need to, at an early age, I'm talking about when the children come out the womb, instilling in our children that we are African first.
Yes.
So making sure that within our homes, right, within our babies, we cultivate a strong African identity. Okay. How do you do that? Teach them about Africa. Have them read storybooks. I'm talking about right in your household, because a lot of times we run out here and we want to be in the community. I'm a community activist, but your home is in shambles. You want to go out here and re-Africanize the community. Start with your family. Start with your family. That's what I did. And Minister Dr. Saar and Brother Jabari, you met my family. My mother, my father, Ramsey, you're a part of the village. So you know my village. And so I don't just come out into the community and talk Black stuff. I'm talking Black stuff in the household.
Right.
You come into my house, you see an ankh. You come into my house, you see the red, black, and green flag. You come into my house, you see the Nguzo Saba. You come into my house, you see the principles of my art on the wall. You come into my house, you see a big bookshelf that's in the shape of the continent of Africa. So we live it. You gotta live it, and you gotta make sure you create that culture in your household where you're instilling in your children and anybody that enters that door that you are African first. So we gotta start with our families. We gotta re-Africanize our families, because a lot of our families are far gone. They in the world. They in the world. But we gotta start planting those seeds. We gotta plant those seeds within our families, and also education. Remember, I talked about that earlier. Education, education, educate. We got to educate our babies, our family in the community on what is Pan-Africanism. Baba Imhotep Fadiu, he literally just wrote a book called Scientific Pan-Africanism. Everybody in this room should have the book. It should have the book, because he lays out clear as day what Pan-Africanism is, the tenets of Pan-Africanism. Then he goes through the Pan-African antecedents, where he traces the history all the way back to Paul Cuffey in the 1700s. And then he talks about the first Pan-African conference. Then he moves into the Pan-African congresses. And so that's a book that should be in every Black household. Read it to your children. Let your children read it to you. Go into the community. Give those books out. So we have to make our family members and community members understand what Pan-Africanism is, so that they can easily identify what Pan-Africanism is not.
Sure.
So, my guiding thought is just to say that what we need to be doing right now is building bridges. We don't spend, a lot of time when we meet other African people who may have another nationality or ethnicity. We don't spend a lot of time explaining to them why they believe what they believe, why they think what they think. Yes, because many of our brothers and sisters who are African from other places, be it the continent, the Caribbean, Central or South America, they're coming here with a certain mentality. Okay. And it is a mismatch in some instances because we are people who have always had a Black freedom struggle, right? Above ground, below ground, all of that. Okay. So what I mean by visibly and sometimes below ground, organizations like RAM, Revolutionary Action Movement, that's the precursor to the Panthers, all of that. So we have always been engaged in struggle. It has been a long and continuous struggle. Everybody doesn't understand that. Okay. They believe and subscribe to the sensationalism that America is, and it is a seductive place. So what we have to do is individually, right? I was married to a brother from the continent, and I had to explain to him, don't get caught up in the BS, because this is how it works. Today they say, hey, you're wonderful. We're happy that you're here. But this guy over here, he's lazy. I pay him a whole $2 and he don't want to work. But I know you're going to work for $1.50, and you got the energy, and you strong, and you persistent, and you're better than him. And then tomorrow, the next guy comes and they say to him, you see him over here, her over here, she's lazy. But I know you not. You want to make it. And I'm going to pay you a whole $1. And you're going to work like hell for that $1 because you feel like you better than these two. You get what I'm saying? And it goes on and on and on because they're trying to get that old thing back, but they never will. That being said, we've got to explain that to our people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Take the time, build a bridge, and have that conversation. We don't do that a lot. We will affirm the stereotypes before we have the conversation. Like, listen, we're not going to do that. Let me explain to you. Let me give you the inside scoop. And then on a larger scale, this is our moment to build bridges with people on the continent of Africa. So many people. I was, at a conference that was an organization founded by Booker T. Washington. It's called the National Business League, but it's born out of the fact that Booker T. Washington had 44 industries there at Tuskegee. And yes, that's what Garvey modeled the UNIA after. Okay. And so we had numerous people from the continent at our 125th anniversary of this organization, and we are building bridges, and that's what we have to do. This is our moment. This is our moment to build those relationships, to say, like, yes, we could see ourselves coming there and doing more than visiting. Yes, we should be doing business. And, I think we could probably survive all of this in a very in a way that is advantageous to us. Do you get what I'm saying? In the sense that we understand how to buckle down and survive some things. And I think this is an important time for us to build those relationships. So I think that's it. To remain living. Okay. Yeah.
When I first started doing the work that I'm doing, there will be people who love me who would say, Davon, you're going to have to tone down that Black stuff, right? You're eventually going to have to, quote unquote, grow up. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that I stayed committed to the methodology and worldview of Pan-Africanism as the basis of the work. And we've been able to be effective. A part of that is because we've been conditioned to believe that Black people can't win, right? And it's and some of that is the historical narratives. You mentioned a few moments ago the notion that we freed ourselves. The societal narrative we get, historical narrative we get, is white folks in the North were benevolent and cared about Black people, so they waged the Civil War to free us. But the reality is the Haitians and the armed rebellions of the United States made it not in the interest of the North to continue the project of enslavement. And it was Black soldiers that made the decision to fight on the side of the Union Army to make it about ending slavery in a way that it wasn't before they got involved. We made the decision to do the work to free ourselves. And it is those kind of historical narratives that allow us to understand that we can win as a people on our own terms. So I would say, in terms of like what we need to do, we need to instill in our people that we can win. We don't need one of the phrases that Carter G. Woodson uses is that we don't need an undue eulogy of the Negro. Right, just say what happened, right? Give people an understanding of what we've been able to do historically, and that will instill the confidence in ourselves and in the community well enough to know that we actually can win. We can beat these people. They're not all that, right? We can beat these people, right? And so I think that's what we need to do as a people, as African people, is we need to have a collective socialization understanding. We can win.
A big round of
say this. Yes, and we have won before. We need to understand that. Like, we have won. We won, right? So now you can take your body and go anywhere you want. You understand what I'm saying? Your body didn't belong to you before. You can take your body anywhere in the world that you want to take it. And that passport, that's the fruit of our ancestors' struggle over the 14th and the 15th Amendments. Those are Reconstruction Amendments. That comes out of the Black freedom struggle. So we won already. We have to think of ourselves as the victorious ones, because we are. We live in the blue flame, the hottest point on the earth in terms of white supremacy. And we defeated them. We have to understand that we defeated them. We won. They didn't win. And they're still crying today over it. I just had to say that.
So, brothers and sisters, let's give our panelists a big round of applause. I'm pumped up. I'm motivated. Y'all did a really good job. All of y'all did a really good job. Y'all got me motivated. Everything, I think spiritually, this thing came together the way it was supposed to. Me and brother Dr. Asar, we talked a lot about who we wanted on the panel. We went back and forth. Brother Imhotep Baba Imhotep couldn't be on the panel today because he's dealing with his wife. And big up to Mama Ife, and hope she gets better soon. But but this was beautiful, man. This is beautiful because I think it's time. It's a great time to organize. It's a lot going on. There's a lot of white nationalism going on. We ain't talking about a lot of that stuff, but a lot of that's going on right now. A lot of people talking about Pan-Africanism is dead. And y'all defined a whole lot of great things today. We're going to continue this. We're going to continue this going forth. But I appreciate what y'all did. And like I said, I'm motivated. I'm pumped. Y'all lit a fire in me. You know what I mean, brother? I'm glad you kept telling me, come on, brother Jabari, let's put this fly out. I was like, all right, Doc, I'm going to send you something over today. I'm going to send you something tonight. But I'm glad you did that. But what we want to do is we want to take time. We don't have much time. We want to take time out for some questions and answers right quick. And if you have, we got a couple of microphones. Okay, we got a question here. We'll pass the microphones around. You got some extra ones? Oh, you can take it. All right. Let's start right here. Start on this side right here. Now look, family, we ain't got long. You know what I mean? We're gonna do 1 and 1. 1 and 1, 1 minute and question, 1 minute answer, please, as fast as you can. Brother Davon, we appreciate you staying. I know you had to leave at 7:30, but I guess you just said we appreciate you for staying.
Real quick, I just want to thank all y'all too, because I got lots of information. And when the sister talked about Cuba, I hate that she didn't mention Gaddafi. But my question is this: is that where we at now? I feel that we need to be organizing our children, and we need to be stocking up water, weapons, and we need to have groups preparing ourselves, because this government has declared war upon us, and we're closer to a civil war than what we may think. And I think that we need to be dealing with that.
Okay, cool. Nick, I thought it was more of a statement, right, brother Bill? All right, appreciate you. We going on this side, then we coming to the back. All right, 1 and 1, y'all. 1 and 1.
I real quick. Maulana Karinga talks about in his Kawaida ideology, he talks about language and logic, and that's what we have here. We have language and we have logic. But let me tell you what's going to happen after that. Beautiful words, beautiful job. But the language is going to go upstairs, and it's going to go in your head and will fall to the floor. We're going to walk out of here and not take advantage of the fact that we have organizations that are separate here. We have organizations that are separate in the community. What is the next stage for us? Because I heard somebody say when I came in that all politics is local. So how do we get to our people about Pan-Africanism when we as organizations are not united? Why do we not have a united front of the Black organizations in Baltimore? How can we get away with talking about unity, umoja, another concept that comes from Maulana Karinga, but we don't practice it? We're supposed to be the brain thrust in this community, are we not? I see strong brains around here. I've been in Baltimore community operating, working, organizing for 55 years. But there's no united front of the nationalists, the Pan-Africanists, whatever organizations. Why? Right? When you talk Pan-Africanism, I ask the question, where is the Nigerian representation here? Because there are Nigerians in our community. Where is the Senegalese representation? Because there are Senegalese in our community. Where are the Pan-Africanism that we should be about so that when we reach our children, they see it and not just hear about it? So what's going on with that? Right? Finally, I have one more point. Okay? One more point. Because I have a soldier mentality because I was orientated to the Black nationalist movement by soldiers. How we spend our time. I was taught that in the Vietnam soldier would eat his K rations, and then what he would do was he'd throw them away. And then that little boy who's right beside him would take that K ration can back to the Vietnamese people, and then what would they would do with it? They put a bomb in it. So that same soldier walking through the fields, clip that wire, and get his foot blown off. Didn't kill him, but that's one less soldier they have to worry about. I say that to say this. There are mistakes that our enemy is making, and we're not taking advantage of it. The sister talked about liberty, being able to do this, that, and the other. Who is stopping us, the different organizations in Baltimore, from establishing a united front? So we walk out here again, and we probably will. The next time we have another forum, but we won't advance our language, and we won't advance our ability to reach our people. Pan-African nationalism is the best message for our people. And the best message to deliver it to our people is to practice it. And there's no practice in Baltimore. There's people isolated. So I'm doing this. I want to call a forum, and I want to invite all of you here. But we're not going to just walk out. We got to strategize how we're going to face tomorrow as a united front. As a united front. I state.
Shay.
That was an excellent statement. I would say that we are working on that. Brother Cliff had something. When was it? It was here. PLM was here. I got you. And that I got you. But we're working that. And so that's going to come. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of people swallowing egos. And that's what we're going to have to do. So I'm with you on that, and it's going to come a time for that. But I will say this, and I want to make this specifically clear because we get in a lot of trouble. I don't say get in a lot of trouble. We get a lot of people looking at the UNIA for certain things. We won't sit down with people with bad character flaws. If you have somebody that's taken from the UNIA, they've taken from Black people. I can't sit down with you. The worst thing you can do is take. The worst thing you can do is rob and steal from our people. And so we've had a couple of, I would say, conventions coming up, and we won't be there because these people have done wrong to Black people. And that's why I really love the UNIA, because that's how I feel as a person. We have to be on code on a lot of things that we do. And I hope that we can continue building with Brother Cliff and bring everybody together, swallow our egos, come together, and like you said, not just talk, but come out with some strategies and solutions.
All right, Brother Ali, but let's keep the 1 and 1. I've been letting people go over now. Yeah. All right, 1 and 1, 1 and 1.
It'll be one. Good evening, everyone. My question is, I guess something to think about. Was a lot was said here today. I come from a mental health background, but my question is that historically, when we look at how we have been as a people, we look at the Black Panthers Party, some of the other organizations of Islam. Not everyone became a Panther. Not everyone became a member of the Nation of Islam. historically, the largest, I would say, ideological group in the United States is the Christian community. You know, our grandmothers, our aunts and our aunties, and our uncles. So the question is that everyone's not going to be a Pan-Africanist, nor do everyone want to be a Pan-Africanist. But at the same time, but we're all in the same boat. So what strategy are you taking moving forward, meaning that, okay, grandma, auntie, uncle, nephew, how can you support what I'm doing? Because the brother alluded to, we said, okay, well, you know, there's the unification. But the reality of it is I mean, that's because what we can romanticize about what it is, but the truth of the matter is that it was not going to be that. But yet, so do we, those who are Pan-Africans, as alluded to, where first of all, there should be a unity among that group right there. And then secondly is that for the family members, because we know that we talked about the Montgomery bus boycott, it was Christian sisters and brothers who marched for 381 days to desegregate the bus line in Montgomery, Alabama. It wasn't Pan-African, but you know, I grew up during that time. I'm originally from Alabama. I'm 67 years old. So we didn't call ourselves Pan-Africanists, but I came from a community where Black people loved one another, what we did for one another, even though we were implementing that within our behavior. So again, the question is that when we go into our relatives' homes, our parents' homes, our aunt's home, is that, okay, well, I get it, Grandma. You're going to love Jesus. You got Jesus on the wall. But how can you assist me in what I'm doing? Because I think that had to be part of the strategy that I will put forth. Thank you.
All right.
I think that's a really important point. And that goes back to one of the things I was saying about we have to base the quality of the perspective we operate from what it produces. I think innately, most of our people want control of the institutions that govern our lives, right? They may not call it Pan-Africanism, right? But I think naturally people want to control the things that they know are part of what they need to survive. And so for me, I operate in the political landscape where I'm in the minority ideologically. Right now, I'm forthright in terms of being revolutionary Pan-African nationalist, but I'm in the minority. But part of what I do is I engage in political advocacy and pushing policies that benefit the community and make explicit that that's the perspective that I operate from. And I would argue that over the course of the 15 years that LBS has been in existence, we've moved people who originally were conservative and this Black stuff not going to work. Many of them come back around and like, you know what, let's do work with you. Right. So I think that's how we got to show people better than we can tell them.
And let me just say this. So the brother is very correct, right? So I was saying I'm a Tuskegee alum when you say you're from Alabama. I get it. So because Tuskegee was very progressive politically post Reconstruction, right? Our people are organized. They're just not organized in the organization that we right here really sort of like value. It's the church. It's the Black church, period. We are organized. But the Black church has overwhelmingly failed our people. We could solve all conditions that we have in our community if the churches had a network. Pretty, you know, so but they have abandoned that, and you know, it's the collection plate. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So this is the thing. I think that is a good idea. We must have a all African people leadership organizational type of forum where we organize in a serious way. And I just want to say, I agree with the brother. You're right. I didn't mention Gaddafi, but he is the person who, when the African Union comes back, I was part of the first conference of intellectuals for Africa and the diaspora, where we gave direct recommendations for the continent of Africa, how to come together in every area of life. Bottom line, though, let's be clear. If there's a civil war here, this is not our war. Let them undo themselves. This is not our war. The only thing for especially people in this room who consider themselves nationalists, no, there's only one thing to fight for, and that is land. Okay? Are we fighting for this land? No. Not when we know there's primacy of Africa. Not when we know that Africa is the seat of our power. Africa is the seat of our liberation. The world could live without whatever resources you think are here, but the world can't live without Africa. So we're not spilling our blood here. Let them do what they're going to do, right? And we need to be prepared to be JED, means stable. Okay, that's all.
Yeah. Go ahead, you mind if I chime in real quick and we get the brother back there? he's 1,000% correct, Brother Jabari and Dr. Asar, on, you know, us practicing Pan-Africanism right here in Baltimore. And then you, Brother Everett, you said it's a lot of conventions coming up. When you said that, I automatically thought of the Race First Convention, right? Which is being put together by PLM, you know, Baba Imhotep Fadiu. And so you said, well, if you take from Black people, you know, you mentioned character, and I agree 1,000% with you about character and not wanting to align yourself or affiliate yourself with people who have piss poor character, right? My question is, though, because I know there's a lot of beefs going on with organizations, like he said, ego and different beefs. Right. What's more important, right? Is it the mission? Is liberation and sovereignty most important? Or is it these beefs that we have with each other? You know, and so we say we love Black people, right? So if we love Black people, and let's say that you and I have an issue, if we come to the table, we have a conversation about the issue, there's acknowledgement of wrongdoing and an apology and change behavior, then can we move forward? Because it's like, that's another thing that's holding us back, these beefs, these grudges. I don't like him. He don't like her. He's this, she's that. This happened, that happened. That's holding us back from unifying. So we got to ask ourselves, what do we want? What's most important? These beefs, ego, or is the mission for liberation and sovereignty? We really have to ask ourselves that. And what do we really want? And do we truly love Black people? We sit here and be holding grudges with each other for decades, but we go right out here, man, and shake hands with white folks. Go to work the next day, smile in their face, you know, work alongside, pay bills, spend money with them. But then you mad with your brother over something that happened 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, beefs that happened before we even were born. We holding on to those beefs. So what's most important to us? Liberation and sovereignty? And do we actually really love Black people? I just wanted to say that.
Ashe, I just want to say I agree with what Dr. Maya just said. Just want to remind, the only thing I would add to that is that we have to understand the difference between frauds and flaws. Okay, because some of us get caught up in that fight about bringing frauds into the thing, and frauds ain't really doing too much changing.
Peace, Brother Calvin. I'll be quick. My question in terms of building bridges, I heard some good statements made about our identity as Africans, but when it comes to unifying organizations and unifying our people here in America, one of the biggest barriers I see is that there's a big split in those who believe in building a better America for Black people versus those who believe in re-Africanizing or even going back to the continent. Do you think there's a way that we can resolve that divide and still unify? And also, if you could reference any of those, I heard mention of platforms in Africa that represent their viewpoint well. I would like to follow up if you know any specific platforms or personalities. Thank you.
1 minute panel.
Look, people gonna beef. And I think the mature thing for just human beings in general is that, as was said before, if the goal is the mission, we figure out how to operationalize collaboration when it's necessary. And I think sometimes, and I'm not saying anybody here did this, but I think sometimes what I see online in some conversations is there's a desire for a kind and a nature of unity that actually is not humanly possible. Where there are going to be people that have disagreements that don't work well with other people. The goal is that if you are engaged in work and the folks that you're organizing with are engaged in work that's benefiting the community, then the most important thing is to build with people who are also doing work. And what you do is and as you continue to build, those networks and relationships naturally build, because the best way to build relationships is to work with people. And that's going to happen over time. It's not a thing where it's like, we're going to meet and then all of a sudden we're just going to start working. You start working on something small, right? You get successful, that brings more people to the table, and you continue to build on that. So I just want to emphasize that that's the process. And I'm fortunate that I was young enough in terms of when I started to work to see that at the stage that I'm at now, while there's still work to do in terms of building bridges, there's a lot of people in this room that I know have been working with and known for a very long time, right? And we're going to continue to build on that, right? And that's the source of our unity, is building on the existing relationships and work. And when you meet new people, right, can do work with them that aligns, that helps to aid the mission that everybody is trying to work on.
Let me just say this, so far as working with people, 30 years, Soul Vibers Nation, I probably work with every last one of y'all organizations in here. Probably why I can be the bridge in between a lot of people. I've cut most of the people. I'm your barber, most people barber in the city, so I'm like a connector. I work with everybody. We have tried to make a lot of different strides to try to do it. We just got to continue to do it. Sometimes we try to come together, fall apart, come together, fall apart. But I do work with most people around. Man, Dr. Asar working together right now, doing these events right now. I'm working with Brother Davon, working with Brother Heber Brown, like a lot of us, I can name over and over again. We work together. I work together with a lot of people all throughout the year. So I think it's happening, but I think that we just got to keep trying. Just got to keep trying, keep bringing it together until we get it. Who was next? I'm sorry. Brother here.
Hello. Hello, my name is Q Scott, and I pretty much agree with everything y'all say. And like I said, I know my brother right here for a minute, and I do agree with everything y'all spoke about. But we got to make it clear: our problem as a people is in America is our inability to create wealth on our own, because we have so many different nonprofit organizations that's fighting for the same funding from the same white people. Because we never got that 40 acres in the middle to create wealth. So we're going to have to actually build these bridges that we was talking about. And if you go through Baltimore, you will see a lot of individuals, but you will never see prosperous communities in where black people live. I ran for mayor. When I win, reparations will come to my people. But you didn't hear it because, in fact, I'm not rich. I ran for mayor twice just to actually learn the game. And the game is not for us, and it's rigged. Republicans and the Democrats fund every politician that's run for Baltimore. The government's not corrupt. This is not your government. Okay? They're working for someplace else. My campaign, my goal was actually go to neighborhoods and create neighborhood associations and turn them into LLC businesses. Give them property so they can create wealth that's together. When you can work together, make money, you can work together for everything. And my organization is We the People Are Coming, and we want to make the change for all black people. And I do love black people. I've been one for a long time, and I don't think I'm going to be anything else, but like I said, I'm grateful, y'all, and I love the conversation, and I would love to meet each one of you and get your information.
I say.
And one thing, and I am heading an initiative to actually run 17 people, mayor, city council, controller, and city council president. We need to get Baltimore City out because they're not our people and they're not for us.
Let me just make this announcement right quick. We do have a lecture coming up with Brother Ashraf Kwesi coming up on the 11th of October, Saturday, October 11th, that we do have coming up here. It will be here at TNAT. So if you never seen him speak before, you want to come and speak. You want to come see this brother speak. He's been rolling with us for 30 years, all 30 years since we've been doing this. And he rocks the house. The Egyptians was black. That's the whole thing. Now, so we got to come back around full circle. We thought we had already handled this a long time ago with Dr. Ashaka Musabar Shango and many of the other black scholars that we had come out to speak. But look like we got to circle back around and go back through this stuff all over again. So who was the next question? Do we have any questions? I know we had a lot of statements. We can ready to wrap. Oh, it's from 7 to 10. Doors open at 6. We'll have this link.
Can I
we can
just
put this link up?
Yeah.
Oh, email. If we can get all your email, if we can get all your emails, if I don't have your email, let me matter of fact, you can text me your number. My number is 410-303-4120. I say it again. 410-303-4120. If I don't have your number, just text me and we're gonna add you onto the email list so that way you can get the information.
Can
All
I
right.
can I ask some? Well, can I share something
Yeah.
and have it? So I mentioned I Love Black People, the organization. So what it is, and it's so funny because here's my sister, a brilliant engineer, but the organization is a tech company that leverages technology to address racism and xenophobia on the continent, and Afrophobia, because yes, we have Afrophobia on the continent, all of that. So it is an actual app. What it does is we use the technology to identify Black friendly and safe places for us. So you don't go to the bar and get murdered, or you know what I'm saying, because you drink a little bit too much and they call the police on you. But this is on the continent. This is globally. So if you guys have a moment, download the app, iloveblackpeople.com. It identifies anywhere you could travel in the world. You could plug it in and we'll tell you all the safe and Black friendly places to go. iloveblackpeople.com. Okay. And so I'm sorry. iloveblackpeople.com, but also the app. If you go into whatever your app is, I Love Black People.
And look, let me just say this. The sister really does love Black people. She called, I met her for the first time today, and she said, when you came all the way from New York today? Oh, okay, cool. And I think you were supposed to drive, and then you actually caught a train up and everything. So we appreciate that. You know what I mean? On a Wednesday, that she come to be with us here in Tubman City in Baltimore. Give her another big round of applause for coming making that sacrifice today. All right, brother, you can go ahead with your question.
Hello. Can I just first say it's been such a amazing, beautiful, powerful conversation. There's been so much talk about strategy, and I wanted to just make a simple ask, not for the sake of myself or just the people in this room, but also it's being recorded. So I think there's a benefit to. Could I hear with the panel maybe one call to action for people that you may need, because there's a variety of talented people that could be of service to you. And for my sake, I don't know what you need or not. Like, do you guys have any ask? You need administration people, you need to come out certain places. Just if I could hear from the panel individually, for the sake of your organizations.
I'll say two things quickly that we're working on. One of the things I mentioned earlier, we worked on a piece of legislation that would establish a reparations commission that would provide recommendations on how to implement a reparations policy. It passed the legislature, it was vetoed by the governor. One of the things that we're going to be working on is to override the veto. So we've been, reaching out to elected officials. We're going to put pressure on them to essentially override the veto. If you go to lbsbaltimore.com, you can join our listserv. We're going to send out action alerts so you can call and contact your elected official to put pressure on them to make sure they vote to override the veto. That's one thing. Secondly, along those same lines, one of the major things we're working on, Maryland is one of the few states that continues the practice of automatically charging youth as adults. So, you walk around, you possess a gun. And we know we live, in a society where there's more gun ownership than ever before. So people, if they don't feel safe, they're going to carry a firearm. Don't necessarily mean they are a menace to society, anything like that. But that's one of the major charges that is often land someone automatically in adult prison. So we're actually working on stopping the automatic charging youth as adults. That's one of the major things we'll be working on this upcoming session. So again, if you sign up to be a part of our listserv, when we send out action alerts, those messages, emails, calls make a difference. Even if it seems small, when I'm in Annapolis and I get pulled aside by a legislator, Davon, I got all these emails. What you want me to do? Like, it really does make an impact in terms of our ability to move legislation.
That was my call to action, to tell you to download the app. You can find the doctor that respects you, the dentist that respects you, all of that. So
All right, this is the very last question. Good brother Talker, Bay. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Good evening, everybody. Let me see how I'm gonna word this. So right now, and for the last few years, there's been, now I come in late, so I may have missed some and it may have been answered, but I would love to hear the answer to this. There's been a concentrated effort to undermine Pan-Africanism on social media, and every day in general, it's been a concentrated effort. I mean, a strong effort to undermine it. And one thing that I know for sure is that Pan-Africanists, if we ever got close to total freedom, it was a Pan-Africanist that brought us to that door. And that undermining that is so strong right now, because I do social media, I do it daily. It's so strong now with propaganda, with the FBA, the ADOS, et cetera, et cetera. How do you go about addressing this undermining that is very intentional and very intentful? Because I'm of the thought that if we get total freedom, which we will, or when we get total freedom, it will be the Pan-Africanists that brings us across that road. So the question is, how do we address this issue that is so critical? Because I don't believe Hitler could have did what he did without propaganda.
Brother Hawker,
I just want to see if I can get an answer.
They did. If you go back and watch this a little bit later, they talked about it in depth about the undermining of the.
No, I'm not talking about the undermine. How do we address it? Which, okay.
I mean, if somebody want to give a quick,
just something in general,
what we did. But if you go back, you'll see it though. If you might want to, one of y'all want to address it.
From a social media perspective.
Yeah.
Well, so we just said that, essentially with organizing, doing what we're doing here, but also just staying steady in terms of what we already discussed here. Sometimes we don't have to. We can address the propaganda with practice by being steady and consistent in our practices. So that's the short answer to what we said earlier.
Yeah. All right, fam. Look, it's getting late. I was getting late. We're going to make one last announcement. Then we're going to get up out of here.
India, moving on, trying to connect with the organizations in Baltimore, serious about our youth, women, standing for working, organizing, making a nation, will train your children free. Free. I'm here today with Mama Ujima, who is the co-founder of the organization, Working, Organizing, Making a Nation. And this is how I think we got to move. We have got to help each other. My contribution, woman's contribution, Ujima's contribution is that we will train our youth free.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. We can stand
Brother
up.
Jabbar, can I say one thing?
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
So we
can
do
stand
this
too.
every day, TNAT. I know if this is your first time here, we here Tuesday through Saturday, and we're here every day. And Sundays, we have a study group here every Sunday at 1:30. But anyway, we open for business every day. Come and join us. We do all types of things from counseling to martial arts. Come holler at us. Blessings.
Share just my book, Booker T. Washington in Africa, The Making of a Pan-Africanist.
Definitely got some with you?
So yes, I do. I have
good,
a few
good,
copies
good.
with me. So
Get
if folks
some
are
signed
interested. In
brothers and sisters, we're
all
going to
of
get that book from you. We're going to close out with the Harambe's. If you could hold your position. Listen up, brothers and sisters. Put your black fist in the air 7 times. Hold on to 7 times as long as you can. 1, 2, 3. Harambe! 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 All right.
Well,
thank you for coming out.
Thank you for coming out. I'm Sister Ujima. I only want to say to everyone that for 14 years we've been doing Brothers Who Can Cook and Sisters Who Can Burn, and we will be coming back in 2027, the chefing series. We will be addressing all things around food, and it will be a major event, and we want you to be there. It will. Well, we're negotiating. It will be between Howard County, PG County, and here. It's a big event, sort of like the family reunion that they do out in Middlesburg, Virginia, but it's just toned down and not as pricey. Okay. All right. Ashe.
Ashe.
go with that.